Affect and investment in second language acquisition. Now, what we wanted to see as researchers was, or as teachers was, what is there in the socio-linguistic context, or what is there within this approach that allows us to see when does second language acquisition succeed and when does it fail. So how do we help our learners? So one of the things that socio-linguistic approach emphasizes is affect and investment. So we have Gardner, who has been talking about the role of motivation in second language learning. So you have your learners who are more motivated and you have learners who are not so motivated to learn the language. And you say that just because the learners are not motivated, that's why they have not been successful, or because of their motivation, they have been successful in learning the second language. Now, if we are talking about motivation, motivation is of two types. Instrumental motivation, that is, you want to do something because it will lead you to do or reach another goal. So this one is a tool to achieve the larger goal. And sometimes the motivation is integrative. When the motivation is integrative, it means that you want to learn it for its own sake. You are just interested in French and you want to learn it because you're interested in French literature, you just like it. However, motivation has been assumed to be fixed, and this has been critiqued over the time, and now it is seen as shifting. So motivation level of children can shift over time. Their attitudes, their feelings are dynamic. They keep on changing and they are negotiable depending on the context or the evolving context they are positioned in. Now, a different concept, sort of the one that replaces motivation, is that of investment. And this concept comes from Norton. Norton believes, like whenever by what do you say, a metaphor, it's kind of a metaphor, that whenever you want to get something, you invest something. You invest money to make more capital. Similarly, Norton says, when you are learning a language, you invest yourself. So learning a language is investment of self. So the learners who invest themselves in learning are the ones who are more successful. Now, this might remind you about Krashen's affective filter. And remember, he also says that when comprehensible input is given to the learners, it really depends whether the affective filter that the learners have, that is, if their attitudes and emotional state at that specific time allows them to imbibe knowledge or not. And this will have a different impact on their language learning. However, as we have said it before, this concept of affective filter has been criticized because it is seen as too static, and number two, because this learners are seen as more passive than we believe them to be. So for adult migrant learners, when they move to a new country, remember that second language is the main medium of communication. It's extremely important for them to communicate or to participate, to go and buy something, and to know the way. they can't possibly do away with the learning of the second language. And that is why they do invest themselves heavily in the learning of the second language, and their emotional response, that means, to second language learning is definitely what we say inextricably connected with the social context. So their attitude is determined by their context or by the emergency of their contact. Now we see, for instance, have this Berta's example in one of the studies, and you have this mother whose child is in the hospital, and she is this immigrant who does not know English as so well, and she just realizes that without the English language skills, because that is the medium of communication at the hospital, all she can do is get highly frustrated because she is not able to get the doctor pay attention to her child or to fully understand the dilemma or the predicament in which the child is. And we see gradually that how much does she learn the language and how successful a second language learner she becomes at a later stage.